You know, I'm going to give you a history lesson.
We got some dumbass motherfuckers floating around this country.
Stop laughing! And when I do, start fucking.
Also, y'all did some nasty-ass jokes on my ass, too.
Funny jokes and unfunny jokes come out of the same birth.
You fucking guys are unbelievable.
Why are you laughing?
Evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Why Are You Laughing, live from the Vaulted Podcast Studios in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Today, I'm pleased to introduce to you the Three Stooges, and the whole gang is back. Matt, Craig, and Mike's triumphant return, which will be interesting to see based on the way we're recording these episodes. We don't know how people feel about just the three of us doing episodes without Mike, so it'll be interesting to see how furious people are.
A little nervous.
Well, hopefully it goes well. I will say, so we're talking about the Three Stooges today, and I planned on starting the episode by saying, you know, it's amazing that I was actually going to say this, Mike, believe it or not. It's amazing that these guys that started in 1922 still hold up today, and the rage I felt for even thinking that when Mike before the show says, you know, these guys started in 1922, and I still find them roll on the floor laughing. And just that phrase infuriated me so much that I was almost like, let's not even do the episode. But he is right. I'll say it was astute analysis by Mike, because it is, and you know, maybe it's more of a commentary on us fucking apes of human beings, that like, you know, Lenny Bruce's social commentary we don't even understand now, really. But a guy getting hit over the head with a board is always hilarious. It's timeless. So yes, the Stooges, as I mentioned. Well, first let me say, before we get into that, I should say we are coming from the Vaulted Podcast Studios. Matt from Rhode Island, our boy, on the ones and twos. And if you want one of these snazzy hoodies that I'm rocking, Why Are You Laughing? Hoodies, zip-up shirts, mugs, all that shit in the store, the Teespring store. Find it on our Blind Mike Project on Linktree, and go to the Patreon if you want these episodes a week early. All right, enough of that. The Stooges, I don't know a ton about. I did always know they led very sad lives, kind of the definition of the sad clowns. And today, I think we are going to discover a couple characters, as we've done in a couple other episodes, where the episode is about the Three Stooges, obviously. But there's a couple characters I've stumbled upon in my research here that I think are the real heroes of the Stooges' career, as far as, you know, making them miserable for their entire lives. So in 1922, they get hooked up with this guy, Ted Healy. Ted Healy was a vaudeville type of comic, as were Mo Howard and Shemp Howard. Horowitz is their real last name, real brothers. And they were added to Ted Healy's Stooges. It was like Ted and the Stooges, I think. Ted and his Stooges. And they also went by like Ted and his Southern Gentleman or something like that. Weird 1920 shit.
Doesn't flow as well.
Yeah, exactly. But so the premise of this act was Ted Healy would sing some, you know, nice 1920s classical music, whatever the fuck he did. And the Stooges would come in and interrupt it. And then he would, you know, berate them verbally and physically. Oh, it was wacky times. But I guess this Ted Healy was a real fucking character. He was so they do these they start doing like theaters and things like that in the 20s. It was Mo and Shemp Howard, and then there were a few other Stooges in the rotation. And then around like 1925, 1926 is when they met Larry Fine, who I guess was like a violin act.
Yeah.
It's so weird. We talked about this with Rodney. Like Rodney Dangerfield was a singing waiter.
Yeah.
It's weird what passed for entertainment then. It's like, oh, let's go see this violin comic down at the, whatever, the Chuckle Hut, whatever the fuck they work.
He uses it like all the time in the show, too.
Yeah.
My Stradivarius.
Yeah. So.
It's also like Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we'll talk about Charlie Chaplin in a minute, because these guys were surprisingly more groundbreaking than Charlie Chaplin, but we'll get to that in a bit. But yeah, so in the 20s, they work with Ted Healy. They find Larry Fine, and the whole gang is together. Ted and his Stooges. They get deals to go out and do shows, and they got a movie deal in 1930. and I guess the movie flopped. However, critically, what stood out were Moe, Larry, and Shemp. Like, they got rave reviews. So, what company was it, Matt? Was it Columbia at the time, or was it it was Fox, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So Fox Films at the time reached out and wanted to work with the Stooges. And Ted Healy flipped out and said, absolutely not. These are my employees, because they didn't want Ted. They had no interest in old singing Ted and his jaunty tunes. They wanted the Stooges. And Ted wouldn't allow it. So evidently the Stooges found out about this not long after. And they said, fuck you, Ted. And I guess the the biggest strain on the relationship was Shemp. I guess Shemp really hated the guy and left the Stooges because Ted was an abrasive drunk and ill-tempered, which I found a funny phrase. So Shemp doesn't like Ted. No one really liked Ted, as it turned out. And this is where I think you guys will really come to like the great Ted Healy. So Moe, Larry, and Shemp go out and do these theater acts. Probably not dissimilar from what you would see in like their shorts. You know what I mean? Maybe a few less props they would have handy, but same type of shit. And they started to get popular in these theater acts. And Ted Healy first, went the sane route and took legal action and had a legitimate case, I think, because he said these guys are stealing my material. And it was interesting because like Mo Howard in his book later in life would write like, hey, yeah, it took a lot of time to think of these bits or come up with them or take them from other people. Like, he kind of said it very casually. So I think stealing was a lot more casual back in the 20s and 30s.
Well, yeah, because a lot of it was, I know when comedy first started, there would be acts in like every state doing more or less the same thing.
Right.
Because they, one, couldn't prove anything, and two,
There's
no
internet.
Right.
No one around that area knew it or anything.
Right.
But Ted Healy said, not so fast, my friends. I'm not putting up with that bullshit. And so he he said he had the material copywritten, and so he sued the Stooges for stealing his act. But then he took matters in his own hands and would call in bomb threats at any theaters that booked the Stooges. So this Ted Healy was just getting shit-faced and saying, I'll show these motherfuckers.
Are they performing at a middle school today? Not anymore.
So where are we now, Matt? Did I miss anything in that?
No, you hit it
Storyline?
right there. In 1932, Healy came to an agreement to get the group back together.
Yeah. So when they part ways, like Ted Healy was always kind of leader. Like I said, the Stooges were his employees. But then in 32, they came to some sort of agreement. Mo was now like the voice of the group, like the ringleader, I guess. Mm-hmm. And he came to some sort of agreement with Ted Healy. But Shemp did not like this. Shemp said, no way, I'm out of here. This guy's a fucking maniac. So Shemp is the only one with any goddamn gusto and sense. So he left, and they needed to find a third stooge. The formula, I guess, only worked with three of them. So that's when Mo suggested his younger brother, Curly, and I guess, so Curly had to like audition for Ted Healy, who's still pulling the strings. And Ted was like, this guy's not fucking funny. And so Curly,
soothsayer.
so Curly, which is the description of him, it doesn't make any sense because they say Ted Healy said this guy, he doesn't look funny. He doesn't have a funny look. And they describe Curly as having long, red curly hair and a handlebar mustache, which maybe I guess for the 20s was pretty normal, but to me that sounds hilarious.
Right.
But Curly, in an attempt to impress Ted, left the room, shaved his head, like partially, so he had the Larry David look going, and came back in and was like, "Is this funny?" And the legend is, this is what a hack Ted Healy was, even for the 20s. The legend is that Curly said, God, I look girly, which to me doesn't make any sense if you shave your head.
Yeah.
But I guess that's what he said. And Ted heard Curly, And he's just one of these guys. He loves a good. He's like, you're curly now, you motherfucker. Jerry Howard was like, all right, fine, I'm curly, I guess. So they work together, Mo, Larry, and Curly, and Ted. For Ted and his Stooges, they put some shorts and films together, and then it didn't really take off particularly well. Like they were mildly successful with some of their shorts, which I don't know if you guys know this. Even like in researching this, I wasn't fully able to understand how the shorts worked. Like, would people go into theaters and just watch a half-hour movie or whatever?
So before movies back then, they used to have like a newsreel because you didn't have TV and stuff back then. So they would show you the news, and then they'd show you a short before the movie. Like, you know how Pixar usually does that? It's the same type of deal. They would show you a short, and then you'd see the film.
Okay.
Like, going to the theater was like
an event,
an ordeal back then.
Yeah. Put on your suit and tie.
Yeah.
So they're working with Ted still until where are we now, Matt?
Well, when they permanently broke up,
Ted's exit.
Yeah, because I want to lead. So we're going to go off on a bit of a tangent here because Ted led a very interesting life, which didn't last much longer.
You don't say.
So let's hear about old Teddy.
According to a book called The Fixers by E.J. Fleming, Healy was broke, his career was over, and he drank every day. And, on the night in question, he'd gotten into an altercation with Wallace Beery, who was accompanied by Albert Broccoli and Pat DiCicco. And eventually they took it outside where Broccoli held Healy in place while the other two men beat him within an inch of his life and left him for dead. And apparently after that, Healy went home in a cab and then made several phone calls to his friends to tell them about the beating, including Shemp Howard.
Which is weird because him and Shemp didn't really get along. But so I wonder if that was like taunting, like, hey, you motherfucker. Like, what is he calling Shemp for? But evidently this guy, Ted Healy, was a real problem.
Yeah. Can we go back for a second? Did he say Albert Broccoli?
He certainly did.
Like,
how much time you want to do on that? His name's Broccoli. We got it.
No. Albert
was accompanied by Albert Broccoli and Pat DiCicco. And
so the guy who created James Bond is named Albert Broccoli.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Well, I don't know if it's the guy who
I wonder if it's the same guy.
Produced all the James Bond movies.
There can't be two famous Albert Broccoli's. It's got to be the same guy.
I mean, that is a rare name. That's why I went, wow, his last name's Broccoli.
Yeah.
It was point.
Well, no, just like the guy who made all the James Bond movies held a guy down while two other guys beat him.
You're damn right.
Like, what the
Pretty
hell?
cool. Pretty debonair, if you ask me.
Real suave.
So Ted was just a wild drunk, and even when the Stooges broke up with him, like whenever their contract was done, even Mo was like, "We can't fucking work with this guy. He's out of his fucking mind. He's always cocked and mean." And I guess I think because a lot of their comedy was physical, I think maybe it felt a little too real with old Teddy at the helm. Like he was putting a little extra muscle behind some of those beatings.
it is the same Albert Broccoli.
Get out of here.
Really?
That's hilarious.
Well, I'll be damned. Good for him.
I was like, man, it's gonna be tough, but nope, there's this picture.
Get the fuck out. That's
Same
funny.
guy.
So the story is also like there are conflicting stories on how successful that report was basically that his career was over and he was at a bar talking shit. There are other reports that he was out celebrating the birth of his child and that things were going really well, but he just got cocked and started talking shit to the wrong people. Ted Healy's death is very mysterious. Like it was deemed like kidney failure or something. Like it's not said that old Al Broccoli beat the shit out of him.
Did he go the way of Houdini?
Kind of, yeah. Very mysterious.
I just picture Mo just getting a little too deep on the eye poke.
Yeah, right. Yeah, everyone had a whack at old Ted at the end. So he's a wacky character, but he wasn't the most abusive to the Stooges, which we'll get into in a bit. But now I think this takes us to the Stooges' deal with Columbia Pictures, right?
correct, in 1934.
Yeah, so they get tied up with Columbia Pictures, and this is when they really started to take off. They say the peak of the Stooges was about 35 to 41.
Yeah.
Most say that Mo, Larry, and Curly are the Stooges. So when they left Ted Healy, they were able to become the Three Stooges finally. They weren't Ted and his jolly band of brethren or whatever the fuck they were. So yeah, now they're the Three Stooges. They're working for Columbia Pictures. They're making all kinds of shorts. But the next villain in the Stooges' life enters the mix. This guy, Harry Cohn, was running Columbia Pictures. And then I found, the more I looked into this, the Stooges were not the only abuse victims of Harry Cohn. But the Stooges, and boy, I could really relate to this, they have no confidence. They had no confidence in themselves. They didn't know what their value was, and they were constantly worried that they were going to get fired or lose their job or no one would want to hire them, so on and so on. Harry Cohn, very perceptive, he picked up on this, and he said, well, I can take these motherfuckers to the cleaners. And boy, did he. So Harry Cohn, the Stooges in 1934 started a 23-year run with Columbia Pictures. In that time, they never asked for nor received a raise.
My God.
They were receiving an amount, it was like $600 a month. Or $600 I forget the exact number, but whatever it was equated to like $11,000 a year today. So they were really getting fucked. And what Harry Cohn would do is say, and keep in mind this is like 1934, and they were there for 23 years. But every year they would sign the Stooges to a 1-year deal with an option. Columbia Pictures at the end of the year could pick up the option. And every year he would say to them, when negotiating time would start, he'd be like, hey, we might be cutting this shorts department. People aren't really loving shorts anymore. Is it really worth it? And the Stooges would go, all right, we're sorry, fine, whatever you want. They would panic. And they say in the 23, it wasn't till after they left Columbia Pictures that the Stooges were ever aware of their true fame. Wow. They said Harry Cohn would never give them numbers, never give them any sort of rating. Like, he withheld all that shit so that he would be able to be like, yeah, things are fading. People aren't really interested in you. Well, if you take the same deal, we'll keep you around.
Yeah.
But yeah, this Harry Cohn really did some fuckery to the Stooges.
What a bastard.
Yeah. I mean, I guess some blame should be held on the Stooges, where it's like, yeah, you've been saying that for about 20 years now, that they're going to cut this shorts department. I mean, eventually he was right. They did in like 57. But yeah, no foresight on behalf of the Stooges. They were very lack of confidence. There was a fog over them for their entirety.
Sad.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it really is. And it gets sadder for the Stooges.
Oh, no.
But where are we now, Matt? I don't want to miss anything.
This is the best line.
To go along with it, their manager was also in cahoots with Cohn.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so their manager, so not only were they getting fucked on the deal, their manager was friends with Harry Cohn and was stealing from them. So, frankly, I don't know how the Stooges paid any of their bills. Never mind, we're very successful.
Maybe just from live shows. They would probably catch most of that.
No, so... Well, listen to this.
Oh, no.
So I
hate this.
Their recording schedule, they would record like 30 shorts a year or whatever it was, and that would be about 8 months. So they had 4 months a year to tour, but they would typically spend a lot of that time promoting the shorts, like going around the country and promoting those for Columbia, or like they wanted to see their family once in a while. Yeah. So they would spend family time. So they didn't have a lot of time to go out and do like theater gigs. And that's not the last that Columbia fucks with the Stooges, but we'll get to that in a minute.
Imagine being like their grandkids and be like, you'd assume they're well off.
Generational wealth. If you're Frank Fine or whatever the fuck. So what's next, Matt?
They were the first to satirize certain Austrian fellow.
Oh yeah, so that's where I brought up Charlie Chaplin. I mean,
clankly.
They beat him by like a month. You know what I mean? So Charlie Chaplin was on the same wavelength. But, like, when you think of the Stooges, you just think, wacky bits, all that type of shit. You think wacky bits. But they did, like, they didn't stray from that, believe me. This wasn't their...
You nasty spy.
Yeah.
That's the one. That's the one.
This wasn't their woke moment where they separate. It was still, wacky bits. Oh, yeah. But, it kind of, and, I think we've forgotten this a little bit in 2021, but it did put the screws to old Adolf when the Stooges started making fun of him, because no one had satirized him in that way. Like, America was still neutral at the time. Yeah. And I guess you forget, like, I found this interesting while I was reading up on it. Like, you forget that we joke about now, like, oh, Hitler was on the cover of Time magazine. You forget that he wasn't like this, he didn't have the reputation he does now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was like, he's Germany's leader. Seems like a nice enough fella. You know, he's got some wacky ideas, but
Yells a lot.
yeah, he's loud. He's abrasive. He's like this Ted Healy guy. He's not. How much worse could he be?
You know, Hitler was a giant fan of the Stooges, and he's like, "Oh, this week's episode."
Wait a second.
Mo accidentally wiped shoe polish on his lip.
Oh, I should go back.
They fueled his hate for the Jews.
I should go back and say, history is a winding road. It should be noted that Mo Howard, before he met up with Ted Healy, was doing minstrel shows in 1920. But times were different. Let's not forget. And look, he changed his ways socially. Then he was taking digs at Hitler. Now he's a liberal. He's back on track.
Yeah.
So yeah, they were the first to really go at Hitler. What was it called? You Dirty Spy? Is that
You
it?
Nasty Spy.
You Nasty Spy?
Yeah, they spelled it with a Z.
So from like 38 to 41, they made a lot of films taking digs at Hitler, and it's funny to look back at now because it's like Larry played Hitler, and they get into wacky hijinks together. Like, imagine, why doesn't SNL just do that shit? You know, put someone in a silly Donald Trump wig and make them fall down the stairs. That's fun. You know, have a little fucking fun with it.
They could have. They fired somebody though that would have been great at it.
Yeah, that's true. So yeah, a little more innovative than people give them credit for. Although, like I said, they didn't stray from their brand. They knew their lane. Although it is another sad fact. So they said it was, I think, kind of around this time where they said their peers, like Laurel and Hardy and the Marx Brothers and things like that, were either went right into movies or had already, started in shorts or whatever, or theater acts, and then it kind of grown into movies and everything. These guys never had the confidence to do that. Mo said, if you take this act out of short bursts, it's not as funny. And he also said it was probably too hard to do, 2 hour or an hour and a half Stooge movie, which maybe he's right. And we'll get to this as well, but they do start to run out of material at a certain point.
Have Rocket Will Travel.
Yeah. So these guys, their lack of confidence held them back at every turn in their career.
Yeah.
So are we now to like Curly's demise, Matt, or where are we?
Yeah, right there.
So evidently Curly was the most popular of the group. For whatever,
Don't say.
yeah, for whatever reason, he really caught on. But again, no confidence. He fell into a life of drinking, drugs, and drinking, overeating. I'm sorry, and carousing with women, as they say, because they say because he had to shave his head. He never felt like he was attractive to women or anything, and he just kind of fell into a very deep depression. He started to put on a lot of weight. His drinking became an issue, and things were not looking good for the curl man health-wise at a certain point. Give me what do I have in my notes here, man? I'm losing steam. I'm losing track.
In 46, he had the stroke.
Oh, it was that early. I forget it was 46.
Yeah.
Yeah. So his drinking becomes a problem, and then again, Harry Cohn fucks him.
Yep.
Mo reaches out to Harry Cohn and says, "Listen, my brother's having some real health problems, and I don't think it's wise that he be filming when he's in this condition." And Harry said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you guys had a contract here. My mistake. I guess we don't have to do any work, boys."
We're all done.
So
Only hit Curly on the left side because he can't feel it.
So Harry fucks him again and says, "Get back to work, you motherfuckers." So of course, in 1946, Curly has a stroke on set, and was never the same after that. No. He appeared in one cameo.
Yeah, he was.
After that, and even in that, he was not. They said the story goes that he left the set that day and said, "It's sad I'll never be able to make the kids laugh again," or something like that. So he went out on a whimsical line.
He was the guy on the train with his hat down, and he was snoring funny. So they picked up his hat and looked at him and put it back down.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's how they got away with having him, because so that was the only time spoiler alert, that all three Stooge brothers, Mo, Curly, and Shemp and Larry, of course, were in the same scene.
Yeah.
And that's how they were able to get away with it by not having him do anything, really, because the guy couldn't fucking move.
Yeah.
46, Curly has his stroke, and then they try to get Shemp back in the group. When Shemp left in 1932, evidently he went on to like a pretty successful solo career. I guess he was like doing vaudeville and that sort of thing.
He's making so much more money than them, probably.
I know.
Oh, well, listen to this. I forget if I have it in my notes or not, but they have to convince Shemp to come back. He had to take like a 50% pay decrease to come back to the Stooges. And he said, I'll do it. I want this to be a temporary thing. I'll do it while Curly is out. Because, as a good brother, he knew that Mo and Larry have done so little to broaden their career in their, now like 12 years of real success. But they haven't gotten out of that Stooge role. They're, typecast, for lack of a better term. And Shemp knew, like, hey, these guys, their career is fucked if I don't come back and help them out in the Stooges and we get the gang back together. And it was not temporary when Shemp rejoined because Curly could obviously never come back to the group. And he led a horrendous life after that. Like, his health didn't get any better. His drinking persisted. And eventually he had another stroke and cerebral hemorrhage in, 52 was that, Matt?
Yes.
Yeah, so in 1952, like Shemp had returned for 6 years now. He thought he was going to be in this for like 6 months. So yeah, really a miserable life so far for all the Stooges. Really, like when you look at what all of them turned into, like I said, it's the definition of kind of the sad clown act, where they're these cartoonish figures for kids. They, smack each other over the heads, and they're living just like miserable lives.
I like the when Shemp's health, put him over the edge.
Mm-hmm.
This fucking Cohn guy sucks.
Yeah, he sucks.
Oh, okay. So I guess we're there. So
I didn't know if
what a monster.
Yeah, it's
yeah. So in 1955, Shemp is taking a cab ride home. He's in a cab with a buddy. And legend has they were going home from a boxing match, and legend has it Shemp was mid-joke. I never know if I should believe stories like this. That seems like too. Yeah, he was telling
too perfect,
spinning one of his yarns, and then collapsed onto his buddy's lap, and just had a heart attack in the back of this cab, and died in 1955. So Matt, why don't you tell us? What is Harry Cohn's response to that?
Well, Mo wanted to quit, but Harry Cohn reminded him that they owe Columbia 4 more pictures with Shemp. But Shemp is dead.
This led to fake Shemp.
Fake Shemp. That's like a meme now. Fake Shemp.
What's the guy's actual name? I want to give him
Joe Palma.
Joe Palma. Yeah. So Mo reaches out and says, "Hey, Harry, I know we've had our differences here, but surely you can understand. I've now lost 2 brothers
to this show.
Well, you better not have buried him yet.
Is it any coincidence they both had strokes and cerebral hemorrhages after getting smacked over the head for 15 years? What a coincidence. So he pleads with Harry Cohn and says, "Harry, I just want out. Please don't make me do this." And Harry reminds him, "Mo, first of all, you owe us 4 pictures. And need I remind you, Shemp is supposed to be in those pictures. I don't know how you're going to figure it out, but you sure as shit will." So,
I picture Cohn being like, "We can also have a fake Mo if you'd like." and then pulls out a gun from behind his desk.
Pulls out the bowl cut wig and puts it on himself.
Right?
I do like the 2 people he beats the most died of natural causes, quote, but
yeah.
Mo's like,
brain
you know,
injuries,
be the funniest if I do all the beatings.
Yeah. So Harry Cohn in his bowl cut, Pete Rose haircut wig said, "Well, not so fast, Mo. I don't know if you're out of here yet." So they had to put together films, and admittedly, this was easier in the 1950s probably to get away with. You're not zooming in and
there's no HD.
That's not Shemp. So this Joe Palma, they would put in a Shemp wig and film him from behind and piece together old footage of Shemp to kind of, slap together these last 4 films on their contract. However, they're strung along enough that Mo and Larry say, we need someone. We've never made $1 doing this, so I guess we're going to have to keep doing it to pay our fucking bills. So is that when we insert Joe Besser?
That's correct.
You actually skipped another way that Cohn fucked them before that.
Please.
So you said in 48, they made their first TV appearance.
Yeah.
And got a pilot for their own series from ABC.
Oh, that's right, yes. I didn't realize we were already there.
Yeah, we skipped that.
Yeah, so in 48, so when Shemp is still with them, I guess.
Yeah.
They get a pilot from ABC. ABC wants to buy some of their shorts and says, we're going to give you a TV pilot. I'm sorry, not buy some of their shorts. They start going on shows.
Yep.
I think they were on like the Jack Parr show and shit like that they start going on. And they're making these appearances, and ABC says, hey, we like you guys. We want to give you a sitcom. Like, we're going to give you a TV pilot. So they make the pilot, and Harry Cohn says, boys, you think I'm going to let you get away with this? Come on. I'm Harry Cohn, for Christ's sake.
I don't think so.
And to give you a little background on this Harry Cohn.
The ultimate villain.
Yeah.
Well, meanwhile, I mean, let's be clear here. This is the 30s, and like I said about Hitler, we don't know everything about communism yet. But it should be noted that the kind of guy Harry Cohn was, he modeled his office after that of Benito Mussolini. So I think he took this dictator role pretty seriously. 48, the Stooges are
Is that Cohn?
Yeah, put a face to the name.
What's he look like?
He looks like a bastard.
Exactly.
Real son of a gun.
He looks like a motherfucker, if I was to describe it.
So, he fucks them at every turn.
He looks in this picture like he's like, I'm going to go tell them some more bad news.
He's excited.
No, he's got like that evil smile. Like,
Oh, Mo.
hey, Mo, can I talk to you for a minute?
Mo's just a bag of money with a funny haircut.
On screen, the worst thing they could hear after "Hey Mo" was a board to the face. but in reality, it was far worse.
I guess Mo took the biggest beatings off screen.
He certainly
Yeah, I
did.
guess.
He didn't need him on screen.
Hey, you know that wrench you just hit your brother in the head with?
I've got a metaphorical one right here.
I'm going to need you to bend over real quick.
So Harry Cohn fucks them up. And what's hilarious about that, and again, I don't know how all the film industry worked in 1948, but it is, when you think about it, if the Stooges had a show on ABC, wouldn't people be more likely to run out and see their films? I would think.
Go right to Columbia?
Yeah, so my thought would be that Harry Cohn is thinking like, sure, it would be good for business if I let these guys have a TV show, but that would be so off-brand for me.
They're going to find out how much they're worth in a second.
I want Mike Geary to have a good episode in 100 years, so hopefully.
If you're Harry Cohn from when he first discovered these guys, he's doing what he's always done. He's trying to hide their popularity.
That's what I was saying. Yeah.
Exactly.
Good point, because God forbid ABC says, you guys got pretty good ratings.
Right.
Yeah.
Or people start recognizing, I don't know how popular TV is at that time, like across America, but more people are going to see them, and that's going to be very apparent.
What's going to happen is they're going to go to ABC, and if they're allowed to do this show, they're going to offer them a contract that is going to be 12 times the size of the one they have, and they're going to go, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Dude, there had to be like a provision in their contract that said they couldn't go to a theater to see one of their movies.
They're not allowed to see
because they're
people.
like sitting there like, hey, everyone's laughing.
Why
what
is there,
the hell?
I can't. What do you mean I can't get a seat?
Well, when's the next show? 2 weeks.
I like
sold
to think
out forever.
I like to think they'd be at a bar sometimes, and they'd say, "Hey, are you Larry Fine? I know you." And he'd be like, "From what?" What do you mean? We're just making home movies for Harry Cohn.
Yeah, I know you. Remember?
Yeah.
So
I'm warning you.
So Harry fucks him at every turn, and I'll just set you guys up. Spoiler alert. We hear from Harry Cohn at least once more. So buckle up. But first,
Damn this guy.
so now Shemp is dead, and this is when we get to Joe Besser, right?
Yeah, and 50, what is that, 55?
Yeah. So everyone, I mean, like,
I don't know, 56.
typically people think of the Stooges as Moe, Larry, and Curly. I would say most people that know of the Stooges probably know Shemp. Like,
put
that's the
Shemp
name
in
you
there,
hear.
too.
You forget there's like 4 more guys.
Yeah.
Oh no, I think Curly big time.
Well, yeah,
no, I know. I'm saying everyone knows Curly and Shemp.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, oh.
But
Yeah,
Shemp,
yeah. Like
Shemp was, the ones with Shemp were still good. Like, he was still funny.
Right.
It's just different. Yeah.
Oh, that classic debate. Well, that's what. So what happened when Shemp joined the cast is like there was a debate, unbeknownst to these guys, I'm sure, but there was a debate publicly, like, hey, is it better with Shemp or Curly? But like in a way, it kind of revived the show.
Oh, yeah.
Or the films, whatever, because they said in Curly's later years of filming, you could kind of tell the drinking and eating had gotten to him. If that wasn't a wake up call, that's what people say about the Blind Mike Project. Oh boy. So Joe Besser joins. He's an actor. Oh, wait a minute. Am I forgetting another fuckery by Columbia?
Yes.
God damn it.
Oh no, not yet. Not yet. You're
after.
good. It's after this.
Oh, it's after this.
Yeah.
Okay, so they have Joe Besser, who's an actor, and he's the kind of guy, like, he said he saw like how calloused Larry's face was, and said, I don't want to get hit. So he wanted to like go at Moe, and there was kind of like a struggle there. Yeah, he's like, I don't want to be accepting Harry Cohn's deals in 40 years, like you assholes. So there was kind of a struggle there, but they go for the next year or so with Joe Besser. I think they finished out the Shemp contract. They had like 16 more shorts to do or something.
You're gonna be Shemp and you're gonna like it.
Yeah. So if I'm not mistaken, correct me if maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here. I thought that it was Joe Besser that they were casting, where they auditioned a few people. Like there was even there was a black comedian that they auditioned that would be like the new Stooge or whatever, and which would have been interesting just historically. That would have been interesting if they added that element to the cast.
They really beat him.
It's like, oh God, no, Moe, Larry, take it easy.
We said cut 5 minutes ago.
We're almost at Jim Crow, for Christ's sake.
We did.
Get us out of that era. So I thought that Joe Besser was the one that Columbia forced on them because they said, we need someone under contract, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So that's more fuckery by Columbia, where they said, oh, no. It would make sense if we allowed you someone that you have chemistry with that you think might work in that role. But we'll let you pick from this list of actors that we've accidentally given money to. So Joe Besser was one of those. Again, I'm not a Stooge aficionado per se, but the people that are say that like those weren't the worst episodes. They were fine. It didn't really click the same way that like Shemp or Curly did. But, they finish out Shemp's contract, his last 16 shorts or whatever. And then we get to 1957.
Yes.
And you guys remember from just a few minutes ago when I mentioned how every year Harry Cohn would dangle over their heads.
Hold on, Mike. Bring up Larry Cohn's face while we tell the story.
Harry
Cohn. Bring up his face while we tell this.
Yes.
Yeah. Look how excited he is about to do what he's about to do.
Yeah, so every year Harry Cohn gets fully erect when he says, boys, we may be cutting the shorts department. I'd hate to offer you less money. He gets all excited. But after 23 years, Harry Cohn said, all right, enough of this tradition. I guess Columbia was the last motion picture studio with a shorts department at all. Mm-hmm. So even, by 1957, this was a dated brand of film, I guess. So in 1957, it stopped becoming an empty threat. And, of course, the H-Man has to wait until about Christmas time in December.
Hanukkah time.
That's true, too. In December of 1957, he says, the shorts department donezo. And that's, that happens in entertainment, right? Like, Vine died and all those people had to go somewhere. Like, that's what happens to technology at a certain point. Someday podcasting will be irrelevant. But you would think after 23 years of service to Columbia Pictures, unquestionably now, I don't know at the time.
24 years.
I think I wrote it wrong. 23 years. I don't know at the time if anyone was as successful as the Stooges that Columbia had under their on their roster, but certainly now they held up the longest. Like they're certainly the most famous historically. So after 23 years, you'd think at least they'd get a goodbye cake and say, "Boys, thanks. It's been a pleasure."
Mike, they actually got no acknowledgement at all.
No acknowledgement at all. There was not a party. There was not a celebration. There wasn't a handshake and a slap on the ass on the way out.
Look at this motherfucker.
Or even in the face.
They said our shorts department is gone, and Mo Howard, being the magnanimous leader of the group, said, "Well, listen, I didn't have the best relationship with Harry Cohn, but some of these executives and people that work for Columbia, I've known them for 2 decades, for Christ's sake. Yeah. So let me go say, a hearty farewell to my pals." And he shows up at the doorstep of Columbia Pictures, and they say, "Who the fuck are you? Take your silly haircut and hit the bricks, pal."
Holy shit.
He was denied entry, which obviously broke his heart and was real shattering to his confidence. So these guys,
further shattering to his confidence.
It would be, I
Shit.
cannot think of an analogy that would work today. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to think of someone that's been loyal to like a film studio for that long. Like Quentin Tarantino and Miramax. So the fine people at Miramax.
Right.
No, but like whatever that relationship would be, it would not just be like a goodbye. There would be a television special saying goodbye to them. There would be, they would milk it for every dollar. But again, Harry Cohn is like, "Hey, I'm not doing this for the business. I'm doing this for the thrill of the fuck over, the thrill of the ass fucking I'm giving these boys."
This motherfucker.
I could probably make money off the Stooge goodbye tour, but I would rather deny them entry when they just want to say, "So long, pals."
Why do you always give us this news with your hand in your pants?
Don't worry about that. It's neither here nor there. So, all right, we got it.
Yeah.
Jesus,
Craig.
He's about as subtle as the Stooges.
It fits.
So where are we now?
1959. Oh, sorry.
No.
Who's gonna do
I'm not gonna guess what happened that year.
Yes,
Sorry.
59 was a long year. ABC purchased a lot of the Stooges' work to air on TV.
Yes. So this is when they start to. This might actually be when they realize their popularity, because it said it wasn't specific as to like what tipped them off, but basically it was around 1958, 1959 when they realized like, oh fuck, we were pretty popular for all these years. So 1959, there's a Stooge rebirth, and ABC starts airing their shows. Excuse me. I think they had another attempt at a TV pilot that didn't quite go then. But still, this is when they started to get real popular and were able to do a theater tour. So is this when Curly Joe enters the mix?
Yes.
Unfortunately, yes.
So they say, hey, we need someone to replace, because now Joe Besser, I think his wife had like heart problem. Like he basically didn't want to tour with the Stooges is what it came down to. And I don't know that he was really working out anyways. So they were looking for someone. I remember they said that Larry Fine brought in someone that they worked with back in the 20s, like back with Ted Healy and the gang. And Mo's response was, "This would be unacceptable. Like this guy can get fucking pound sand." So they settled on Curly Joe Dorito, or Dorita rather. Dorito. Curly Joe Dorita. And obviously his name was just Joe Dorita, but they wanted, knowing now their popularity, they knew that Curly was kind of the golden age of the Stooges. So now they branded themselves as the Three Stooges with Larry, Mo, and Curly Joe. So I don't know what life was like in 1959 where people could be tricked like, oh, that's the same. Oh, I'm probably seeing the original. I know the guy died, but it's got to be the same group, right?
Has to be.
So yeah, it is. It was a nicer time in the 50s when you could just trick people into seeing something. But I think they were a pretty successful theater act at this point, right?
They were
the 60s?
The highest paid live act in the 60s.
Yeah, so I think that is comedy, because I don't imagine they were making more than like the Beatles at Shea Stadium.
Yeah.
But as far as comedy acts go, they were among the highest for sure. And now they finally 40 years into their career, they finally start making some money. And it's funny because, like, this is looked at as, like, kind of the worst era of the Stooges, I guess. I mean, minus, like, if you take Joe Besser, but these were short bursts. The Curly Joe era was, like, 10 years or something. I think they were, or a long time, anyways, that they were touring together. But that's when they finally started to cash in. And then, when was their next TV show, Matt?
In sitcom, in 1969.
69.
They had the sitcom.
So they do 10 years of touring. And I think they made more shorts in that time, but finally, they got this fucking sitcom made. Harry Cohn must have been rolling over in his grave. I don't know if he was alive at that point to stop it.
I think he's going to like what happened.
Yeah.
Oh, well, tell us what happened then, I guess.
Well, in 1969, Larry Fine suffered from a paralyzing stroke, ending his career. So the pilot they filmed was edited into a TV special.
Yeah, so Harry Cohn gets his last laugh. So the Stooges had bad luck at every turn. So finally, Moe and Larry had been loyal to each other for nearly or more than 40 years at this point. They get the TV show, and this happened a lot throughout the Stooges' career. It also happened at the end of their run with Columbia, where, again, I guess in the 50s and 60s, maybe people just didn't notice this or didn't give a fuck to notice, or how could you, because there's no internet, maybe. But they would slap together, like, old footage and use it in the new films, and I guess people wouldn't notice. And then they also got to a point at the end of the Columbia run where they were redoing everything they'd already done, you know, because I guess how many different versions can you spin on a pie in the face and a fucking a wrench to the nuts?
Plus CTE takes a toll.
that too. And the guys are getting older, don't forget. Like, it's taking a toll on them physically. I think at the end of Moe's career, he didn't go back out because his wife was just like, you can't.
No,
you're fucking 70 years old, Moe.
Also, how great is it? How great is it that he never lost his hair? It just turned white,
but the same bowl cut.
It's the funniest goddamn thing.
It is. I wanted to find more clips of, like, Moe talking. Like, he did interviews. He did
Later
like the
on,
Mike Douglas show and shit. But he never got particularly deep. His book is pretty interesting. He revealed a lot in his book. And there was a movie, like a dark Stooges movie made. So there is a lot of things on, like, the darkness of their life, but they never did, like, serious interviews that I could find anyways, unfortunately. So send them to me if you know where they are, but I wasn't able to find them. But yeah, so they edit this pilot into a TV special because finally someone said, hey, we can at least air this for an hour on TV and people will watch it. Harry Cohn's like, no. You don't want to do that. What you could do, ABC, is just keep fucking these guys into the grave. But yeah, with Curly, Shemp, and Larry, they didn't go peacefully in the night. They had paralyzing strokes and brain hemorrhages. It was the worst. Now, I'm sure that had nothing to do with their physical comedy act. It's just accidental.
I like how they were actually taking shots to the head.
For real, yeah. It was
Catching a ball peen hammer to the temple. Oh, it doesn't really do much for your brain health.
It was the real deal. So in 1969, Larry's gone. And then it gets, like, real sad because now Curly Joe Dorita is trying to cast people in Larry's role. And I think Moe considered going out for a while, and I think that's when his wife stepped in and was like, you're fucking killing yourself. What are you doing? Yeah. But yeah, then it's like, how much more juice are we going to squeeze out of this lemon, you know? Like, they're all dead. Give it up, guys. But Curly Joe is trying to milk it for everything he's worth.
Of course.
And then what's left? After the TV special, I think they had a couple more years left.
That's all I have
I
here.
think that's it.
Well, that's it?
Yeah, pretty much.
There was, I'm trying to think. Oh, you know what it was? Is they tried to make a movie with Emil Sitka, I think is the guy's name, who would have been like the 9th replacement of one of these guys. And I don't believe it ever got made. I think that was the last attempt at a Stooge reboot of some kind.
Yeah.
I mean, other than, there's been, like I said, there was a dramatic film about them. There was the Larry David joint from a few years ago where Will Sasso played Larry Fine and all that shit.
That's right.
He played Curly.
He played Curly, I'm sorry, yeah. So the Stooges had a rough go towards the end.
It sucks.
It really does suck. And it's interesting because like they're kind of referenced as hacks in a way. You know what I mean? Like
They're the
you think of-
OGs. They can't be hacks.
But, well, I mean, you
can't
think
be
of you think
hacks.
of the Stooges as like hitting the nuts. But like if you talk about influences, look at who they influenced. Any physical comedy now?
I was
like
gonna say
Chevy Chase, Adam Sandler, Chris Farley.
we do the coaching tree.
Yeah.
Any sketch
Chris
show.
Farley.
Any sketch show, that's
Yeah.
true also, where like the shit that is
Absolutely.
funny on SNL is like, breaking or fucking,
Farley jumping through a table.
that type of shit. I mean, obviously they have other funny sketches, but like I think that is kind of
not
the
that
basis of well, not anymore. I'm
said-
saying
I think they do.
in the
Fair
history of like Eddie Murphy's time I'm talking. But it is kind of the basis for a lot of sketch comedy, and like I said, Sandler movies or Chevy Chase movies, even like the way Michael Richards, like the way Kramer slid into Jerry's apartment, like little shit like that, where like just physical things being funny. A lot of that comes from the Stooges, I believe.
Absolutely.
But also like, while it's probably the easiest laugh. You know what I mean? Like you're not doing a lot of intellectual soul searching for hitting the guy over the head with a board. But like, how many people from 1930 are we talking about?
But you also got to remember too. They originally where there was silent films. What got the biggest reactions was physical shit. So
yeah,
they
sure.
they brought that over.
Yeah, but I would even say like transcending silent films. Like we did the Lenny Bruce episode, and he's a fascinating guy, and he's the reason for stand up now. Like again, talking about influences, the reason for every stand up now is Lenny Bruce, as we said.
Right.
But people don't watch Lenny Bruce's material, and I'm not saying like all my buddies sat around and watched the Stooges, but like you hear that. It's certainly a reference at the very least, but people will a lot of people will still watch the Stooges as opposed to
Marathon on
Charlie
New Year's
Chaplin.
Eve.
My uncle's got all
Every-
the box. He
yeah,
has
dude,
all
I
the
have all
box
of them.
sets, so it's always on at his house.
Right.
And I think they're old enough now where most of the early stuff's in public domain, so it's all on YouTube.
It is,
You can
yeah,
watch
yeah,
all of it. But no, dude, they still do the Stooges marathon on New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Me and my friends watch it literally every year.
I mean, just as a reference, and even like the impressions.
Never missed it.
Like you don't hear it as much now, but like Anthony Cumia and Billy West in the 90s and early 2000s on the radio were doing Mo Howard impressions. So 60 years later, after like the prime of their popularity, people are still doing impressions of them, referencing them. Anytime the three idiots are together, some hack will say, "Oh, the Three Stooges over here." You know what I mean? Like they are such a part of like popular culture that they've lasted 70 years from when they started and had really nothing to show for it. Like I said, they were one of the highest paid acts for 8 or 9 years at the end, but that's not a lot. Like they were already older guys by that point. That had
At least they got some sort of due while they were alive for a couple of them.
a couple, not the most popular one. But yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have any other thoughts on the Stooges? Do you have any hard Shemp versus Curly takes or anything?
No, I don't hate Shemp. I think the ones with Shemp are almost just as good as with Curly. It's just a little bit of a different dynamic.
What is, as someone who never watched, what is the difference? Because in my mind, like when I was reading all this stuff about their popularity,
Curly was way more physical and loud. And
Curly was way more physical and loud. He was also kind of like the dopey one.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like Shemp is just like he's more in on the joke.
Okay. Because as a guy reading it, I like just researching them. I was like, how does one guy, take a poke to the eyes better than the others?
Yeah, so a lot of the
he was better at defense.
yeah, like a lot of the episodes with Curly and them, they were centered around them using Curly for something. Like they made him a boxer one episode.
Okay.
Like another episode, they dressed him up as like a mental patient to like send him into a hospital.
Yeah.
Like they did stuff to him. Like he was like more of a prop than like a character in some of them.
Yeah.
Because it was like Mo and Larry would scheme something out and they'd be like, "Oh, Curly, come here."
Yeah.
So it's like that, and that was kind of the big difference.
Yeah.
So I wonder, like, it does make you wonder, because, like I said, Mo said that if they got out of that short business, it wouldn't have been the same. They wouldn't have had enough ideas, all that. So I wonder, like, A, would that have increased their popularity, or would it have tanked?
Would have tanked.
And B, would we be talking about the Stooges today if they went the route of, like Laurel and Hardy are still referenced, but again, I think the Stooges have more of a mystique to them, or at least hold up a little more,
I still like cry laughing at some of that stuff.
Roll on the floor.
We heard.
Yes.
I apologize. for my
Get
use
down
of
and
that
give us
term.
3 rolls right now.
No, I watch it once a year because I want it to stay funny. And me and my friends, I literally watch the marathon every year since
the
I was
repeater now.
like 10 years old.
Yeah.
And but no, it still holds up. It's still funny every time.
Yeah, so go pay tribute to the Stooges. Watch them, download their stuff, because just like the 1940s, they won't see a dime from it. And I gotta say also, rest in peace, Ted Healy, for being the ill-tempered drunk that he was, and rest in peace, Harry Cohn, for being a real shyster and fucking these guys over like only Harry Cohn could. And it wasn't, by the way. I started reading things. Maybe we should do a Harry Cohn episode, because my understanding was it wasn't like Mel Brooks did an interview where he was talking about it. He goes, "Oh yeah, I met that motherfucker."
Yeah, rest in shit.
Yeah. Rest in peace, boys. The Three Stooges. I don't know, anything to add before we?
I was trying to look up their net worth, but it's not even listed.
Yeah.
Well, they're dead.
No, I know, but like,
It's not much.
you can still look up. You can still look up people that are dead's net worth.
They're estate. Yeah.
Yeah, because I am curious. If,
Well, like you said though, like you would think. The granddaughter of Mo Howard would be set.
That's what I'm
with
saying.
merchandise and all that. Oh, the other good thing in the 60s, I think, is when they started making money off like merchandise and stuff. I think I don't know if they sold like shirts or
had,
toys or whatever
all
the fuck they
kinds
sold.
of shit. They had a cartoon at one point.
Three
too.
Stooge wrenches.
Yeah.
Yeah, they did have a cartoon. So they
mallet.
Thank God they started making money off that type of shit.
oh, I know. Imagine.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I think the Stooges do rank pretty high in like the history of comedy. I think because how many guys now, like I think Chappelle.
Oh my God.
I think Chappelle and Louis and obviously Chris Rock and these guys are some of the greatest ever. But will they be talking about Chris Rock in 70 years?
I found it, by the way.
What is it?
Tang.
How much would you say Mo Howard was worth? Is worth, not should been.
$40.
10 mil.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, good. Well, you know what? I bet that's a lot of other people making that money.
Well, no, it's I guarantee it. After they escaped and they actually got money for the VHS and DVD sales and shit, so it finally went to his family.
I like to think the Cohn family is still making a percentage of that.
Oh,
He's a
God.
gold-laced swimming pool in his house.
For all of Harry Cohn's hard work, I hope they're making something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a pool in his backyard of a bowl-shaped haircut.
At the waterfalls, the bangs.
Oh, I think actually, you know what? This just reminded me. I think they're cartoon guys. I think they did an episode of Scooby Doo.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Well, I remember even when I was a kid, it was still like the curly wig was still like a Halloween costume. I'm not saying how popular it was, but like it was still around, and that's 50 years later, something like that. So. Good for the Stooges. While they may have made $8,000 in the duration of their career, they have a hell of a legacy. Do you guys have anything to add before we move on to the next one?
No, I think we're good.
All right, boys and girls. We'll see you next time on Why Are You Laughing? Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Hold the phone. Subscribe to patreon.com/blindmike.
That's right.
If you want these episodes a week early, go to the Patreon. Also, obviously, bonus episodes of the Blind Mike Project and more on money and all that kind of stuff. Make sure you listen to Mike and Craig on Very Good Show. It comes out every Tuesday, something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go listen to Very Good Show. And, of course, we record this at the Vaulted Podcast Studios in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Hit up Matt from RI on Twitter. Or vaultedpodcastsri.com, right?
Correct.
So if you guys are recording even podcasts, short films, long film, whatever you guys are recording
Music
or filming, music videos, anything,
Cool.
Hit up Vaulted Podcasts, and our boy Matt will help you out. All right, now we can leave. Goodbye, everybody.